from the Digital Media Center on the campus of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. This is Ramping Up Your English, an educational program for intermediate level English language learners. Here's your host for Ramping Up Your English, John Letson.
Welcome to Ramping Up Your English, winner of the Southern Oregon Television Award for Program of the Year and the award for Best Educational Program. I'm the host and producer, John Letson. Ramping Up Your English is an educational support program for intermediate English learners. It's a program for people from all language backgrounds. Ramping Up Your English is also for people of all ages. If you've already passed the beginning stages of learning English and want to reach higher levels of proficiency, this program is designed to meet your needs. We take a content-based approach to helping you reach higher levels of English proficiency. Our current thematic unit is animals. This is segment 1 of episode 54. Today, I'm going to have you employ your imagination. See what you can understand in the following video, and most importantly, what you feel at the end of it. Here's the video.
You're deep in the forest, warmed by the campfire and your friends. You share stories of outdoor adventures, the unbelievable beauty of the high country, and a few scary stories as well. You excuse yourself from the campfire and lay down to take in the sky on this full moon night. As you watch the clouds skim across the face of the moon, you fade into a deep, contented sleep. All is silent. And then you bolt awake, your heart racing. You look out at the mountains. You hear it, the distant howl, the reply to the wolf just on the edge of your campsite. Your blood is ice water. Oh, there's raw fear, but there's also an overpowering wonder as well. Something deep in you knows this song and knows that it's right.
Did you follow what happened in the video? Were you left with a feeling of chill or fear or wonder? I can't honestly say that I've had the experience you just imagined, but I had one that got my heart pumping, the hairs on my back standing up, and a sense of wonder and even awe. It wasn't from a wolf, it was from a coyote. I was camping in Hell's Canyon in Eastern Oregon, and I was startled awake in my tent by the howling of a coyote just on the other side of the tent wall. I was instantly alert. Something ancient in me was awakened. Then I heard it, the distant answer. A coyote in the distance howled back, and my whole being flushed with a feeling of wonder. Well, animals can do that for us. The Native Americans in the West had the coyote in the center of their cosmology. Native Americans had a place of connection with wolves as well. There was respect and admiration. Now, this contrasted with the European viewpoint of the same animal. Wolves were fearful, even seen as evil and sinful. In European folklore, the wolf was the bad guy, the enemy to be overcome, the consumer of Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother, and it was the blower down of the house inhabited by those 3 little pigs. Well, when Europeans came to the New World, they were vexed by wolves running free. As they pushed west, they were alarmed by the wolf packs. Wolves were shot on sight. When that wasn't enough, money was offered for dead wolves, and the killing escalated. By the early years of the 20th century, wolves were a rare sight in most states, and by 1927, the last wolf was seen in Oregon. Their place in the ecosystem was left vacant. Only Minnesota, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Alaska, and Canada harbored wolves. Only a few lucky people ever heard their howls in the lower 48 states. So did the wolf teach man to hunt, or was it the other way around? What moved either of them to share the meat from the hunt? Well, we may never know the answer to those questions, but the dogs we care so much about today came from wolves, and yet wolves remained free. They kept their ways of hunting and even keeping their distance from people. The state of Oregon was not alone in exterminating wolves from their land. Even in the national parks, the wolves disappeared by some form of violence. But the Congress of bygone days made some wise decisions, and by those decisions, the government decided to reintroduce gray wolves into Yellowstone National Park. Wolves from Canada were released in the park. Their packs grew and then divided as nature intended. Soon wolves were in Idaho, then in eastern Oregon along the Imnaha River. These first Oregon wolves were named the Imnaha Pack, and each pup who was born to the pack was given a number by scientists studying the pack. The seventh wolf born was given the name OR7. The OR stands for Oregon, and the 7 was the birth order. It's in this eastern Oregon pack that our story begins. One wolf from the Imnaha Pack left his home on an epic journey that took him across Oregon, through our part of the state, and into California. He became the first wolf in California in almost 100 years. And his great trek didn't end there. It's a great story, and all of it's documented. It's all true. And there's some mystery about it as well. Let's learn about it in this video.
October 2011. OR7, a 2-year-old male wolf, leaves the Imnaha Pack in Northeast Oregon and heads south. It is the beginning of an epic journey that will encompass 2,000 miles and 2 states. Now, for the first time, witness the adventure of OR7's incredible journey.
OR7 went right through your property. I went, whoa, that's so cool.
He was a harbinger of good news that, you know, our ecosystem here and our forest is healthier simply by his presence.
Satellite imagery show that the wolf came through our compounds and buildings.
California is ready for wolves.
I think it's inevitable that other wolves will follow OR7 and follow that same general corridor through the state of Oregon.
As this magnificent species struggles to regain a foothold in North America, OR7 leads the way to California. OR7, the journey starts now.
You're watching Ramping Up Your English on RVTV Voices. This is segment 2 of episode 54. Now, we've learned about the epic journey of the wolf OR7, but how did he go from having that name to being called or named Journey? Well, when I first saw this book in a Grants Pass bookstore, I thought that Journey was just the name of the book about OR7. Well, it is, but this is the story of how this wolf got to be called Journey. The book is written by Emma Bland Smith and illustrated by Robin James. Its whole title is Journey, the Most Famous Wolf in the West. Now, the story begins simply enough with OR7 leaving his family, the Imnaha Pack. Along with OR7's story, there's a little girl who takes an interest in the journey and follows OR7's progress as he treks across Oregon. Any Southern Oregonian will recognize this scene. OR7 was spotted at Crater Lake National Park, hundreds of miles from where he started. By now, it looks like he's heading south into California. As OR7's fame grew, so did those eagerly following his progress. When he crossed into California, making him the first live wolf there in almost 100 years, radio and TV stations, even national news networks, all excitedly announced this milestone. Many people expressed their joy about this on social media, but some threatened to kill the wolf if it crossed their land. A conservation group decided that OR7 had to become too famous to be killed, so they sponsored a contest to name the wolf. Now, the little girl in the story, named Abby, submitted the name Journey, and shortly after that, she received news that they chose that name. That's when the news of this wolf spread throughout the world. Now made safe by his name and his fame, Journey doubled back and returned to Oregon. Then a mysterious event happened. A black female wolf appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Journey and the black wolf mated, and they were last seen raising pups in the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. With their new family, Journey and his mate have founded a new wolf pack named the Rogue Pack. The book contains a timeline of events and a list of suggested activities for teachers. The story accurately traces the journey of OR7, later named Journey. But the parts about the little girl named Abby, those came from the author's imagination. Journey, the most famous wolf in the West, is widely available at bookstores and is published by Sasquatch Books. Publisher contact information and the ISBN are available on my website, letscreate.org. That's where you'll also find links to videos you see in this episode. Just navigate to the episode 54 page. In our last video clip, we learned how a wolf born in Eastern Oregon made an epic journey through the state and into California, then established a new pack in Southern Oregon. The next video is a trailer for a movie about a group of people who retraced OR7's journey through the wild and rural areas of Oregon and California. Let's watch the Wolf OR7 Expedition trailer.
A wild gray wolf has set foot in California for the first time in 88 years.
So this is the collar, the same type of collar that OR7 is wearing. What these collars do is they store information so we can see over the last, say, 24 hours or 48 hours where this animal has been.
When wolves moved into Oregon, they moved onto a different landscape, socially, ecologically, and politically as well.
We as cattlemen didn't want them here at all to begin with. When we have wolves that are chronic depredators of livestock, I firmly believe that we need to take lethal action on that particular bunch of wolves.
When you go out into the wild, you need to be prepared for anything. And to be following the tracks of this particular wolf as close as we can, the landscape suddenly became alive in a completely different way.
Holy smoke! Unbelievable.
Are you serious? My first wolf tracks.
I know that I saw a wolf go through here.
I'm sure. That's when, in fact, we heard him. We could hear him out here. Probably him howling out over here.
There's a whole art of dealing with wolves that's lost completely because ever since they went on the eradication program, they killed them all.
There's been the same journey for wolves that Native people have undergone in the persecution, the extirpation, and the demonizing.
It puts us in a kind of an awkward place to where we become the villains.
Not all wildlife get a second chance, so I think it's really important that we get it right this time.
What we are experiencing is a society coming to terms with what does it mean to live again with an animal that we feared and misunderstood so much that we tried to wipe it from the face of the earth.
You're watching Ramping Up Your English on RVTV Voices. This is segment 3 of episode 54. I'm your host, John Letson. If you're like me, you're yearning to see the entire movie. It's available on YouTube, and I have the link on my website, letscreate.org. OR7's amazing journey can easily take our minds beyond the everyday world. It's not uncommon for a wolf to undertake a journey away from its pack to find a mate. But this leaves us with some questions. Where did Journey's mate come from? No one can say. Did he make this epic journey out of pure instinct? Or did he somehow know that his mate awaited him at the end of the trek? Did the mysterious female somehow know that her mate would find her at the end of her secret journey? Or did it just happen by chance? It seems that we have a case of animals causing us to go beyond our own world into something else. Maybe these wolves take us to the same place that a wolf howl takes us, deep into some ancestral past. As we'll see later in this program, wolves do some surprising things for us. Now let's look at what some people are doing for wolves. This beautiful book entitled Wolf Haven, this one right here that I have on the table, it's called Wolf Haven, Sanctuary and the Future of Wolves in North America. It features essays and photographs from Wolf Haven Sanctuary in the state of Oregon. Now, this is a sanctuary for gray and endangered red wolves. The photography by Anna Marie Musselman and essay by Brenda Peterson allow readers to make a personal connection with some of the 200 plus wolves there. The insights that the authors experience and share reach deep levels of understanding. Wolf Haven has a breeding program to repopulate wolves, including the endangered red wolves. They get to know the wolves by name and report on their behaviors, their interactions, and their characters. They don't humanize the wolves. They document the wolves as individuals, while the text deepens our knowledge of the issues surrounding wolves. So to quote a short paragraph, in the West, there is real hope that we can find a more sustainable and balanced way to live with wolves based on science, not politics. We can see the wild wolf as a top predator and partner instead of a threat. We can change our stories. The key is dialogue, education, and social tolerance. I consider this book and the study that's gone into it to be parallel with Jane Goodall's work with the chimpanzees, only with an artist's touch. For an intermediate English learner, the text may be a challenge in places, but I highly recommend this book. Wolf Haven, Sanctuary and the Future of Wolves in North America by Sasquatch Books in Seattle. Contact information will be on my website, letscreate.org. If you want a deep understanding of wolves and the issues facing them, this book will deliver. As wolves are reintroduced to parts of the United States, we're learning more and more every day about what these wild animals do for our world. The first wolf release took place in Yellowstone National Park. Like many people, I followed this development enough to see some of the positive changes they've made, but I was stunned to learn how they've made geographical changes to the park in a short time they've lived there. The next video explains those changes. See how much of this video you understand.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
What an incredible video about an incredible process. As a viewer of this program, having seen over 100 viewers or videos of my narration, did you notice the difference in accent and pronunciation? This narrator has a British accent, and British pronunciation is often different from that that's practiced in the United States. Most of it's a subtle difference, but sometimes it's more obvious. Now, even with that difference, you probably understood just about as much of the video as the ones that I've produced for this program. We'll address the role of accent in the later episodes. You can visit my website for support of all the Ramping Up Your English episodes. It's letscreate.org. Navigate to the episode 54 page for today's episode. You can watch and even download all episodes of Ramping Up Your English at archive.org/details/RogueTV. Use the search box by entering enter Ramping Up Your English. You'll find all the episodes there. Ramping Up Your English can be seen on the Ashland Home Network, Channel 15, and in the rest of Southern Oregon on cable, which is charter cable here, Charter Cable Channel 182. Showtimes are 8 o'clock a.m. and that's on Mondays, and 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays. Showtimes will vary in different areas. Check your local public access and education stations. I want to acknowledge the contributions to today's episodes. CS Productions made the trailer for the Journey movie. Skyship Films produced the trailer for the Wolf OR7 Expedition trailer. I have a link to their full-length movie on my website. Also, Sustainable Man for the video How Wolves Change Rivers. I also want to acknowledge and thank the photographers who make their work available through Creative Commons and the same licensing that we use here on Ramping Up Your English. I also want to thank the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife for use of their photographs. I want to thank my director, Denise Ross, and my talented and loyal crew, and I want to thank you, our viewers. All of you helped to make this program an award winner. Join us next time for Ramping Up Your English. I'm John Letts.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/RogueTV. Join us next time on RBTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.